Thank you, Manuel. Hi, everyone. Welcome to VC TV, the Venture Capital TV from LATOKEN. So today we have another episode we're going to talk about investments. And today's topic is investments into VC investments into blockchain and fintech. Myself, Sunny Mohanty, I'm the Regional Director of LATOKEN. I'm based here in Singapore. Hi, Bosky. Hi, Arena. I'm hosting you for the.
Hi, Sunny.
Hey guys, how are you doing? First of all, tell me how you doing.
Fantastic.
Great. So, Bosky, you're dialing in from Singapore.
Yes.
And Irina, where are you dialing in from?
Austin, Texas.
Oh, what time is it for you there?
7 a.m. So the sun is not up yet, but it's starting to come out. So the pretty colors, we should see the pretty colors in the window soon.
We can talk about the rise and setting investments also.
Great. Thank
Symbolic.
you for joining me today. Thank you, Bosky, and thank you, Arena, for joining me today. So today we're going to have a free flow discussion about investments in fintech and blockchain. So obviously we have been talking about investments since February when things went wrong with the COVID-19, and things have actually changed a lot since then. We are almost like 6-7 months into this pandemic, and so we'd like to know your views and insights. Just take us through our journey, like what happened when the pandemic hit, and what has happened since then till now, and what do you see is the future going to hold for the investments in the space. I'd like to start with Bosky first. Hi, Bosky. Can you start with an introduction about yourself, the company you represent, and what you do? Thank you.
Sure. Yep. I'm Bosky. Thanks for the introduction, Sonny. I'm co-founder and director of a company called Iva Media. We are into the customer engagement marketing technology. We are a tech platform which integrates offline and online world and helps targeting and engaging customers in a personalized way. So it's broadly falls under MarTech and AI. And I also have interest in investments in seed funding. I have investments in fintech, in business transparency software in Silicon Valley, and agri-tech as well. So my investments are slightly spread across different segments. But I follow fintech because prior to co-founding this, I was part of BCG, and I used to lead the fintech practice as well there, and been following quite closely on the fintech scene. And this is a very interesting space to be in and to be watched. So this discussion is quite interesting, and I hope we'll learn a lot from others in the panel as well. And I look forward to that. Thanks for the introduction.
Thank you, Bosky. I'm really excited to know more from you because you've got a lot of experience in the field. Now over to Arena. Hi, Arena. Please start with a short intro because I think you were joining our Asia panel for the first time.
Yes, it's my first time here in Singapore with you guys. I've been participating in VC TV now for several months, right. And it's really one of my most favorite parts of the day, though I love what I do a lot, but it's such a great way to start the day, and being able to stay in touch with each other and still have ability to connect, to see people, and to have that which is missing from our lives, right? So we are so used to traveling to, well, I am traveling globally, speaking, connecting to investors, to entrepreneurs, seeing really what's happening in the world, right? It is something that we do not have where on a TV, right? On a regular TV and the regular media. Usually we have press releases, but there's not really this discussion type of things. And it's hard to meet people that are new and see whether you connect with them as well. So it's been amazing. It's been an amazing experience for me. And most importantly, too, very empowering, because it's so wonderful to see that many people are active, are doing things. And, it's lovely to see in such a times as right now that there is movement and deployment happening, especially when it comes to the VC, to venture capitalism. When we started, global economics have been a question. There's been a question for last year, maybe. If you're into global economics, we've been seeing an interesting dynamic toward questioning how things are going to work out. And obviously for us in US, in March, everything started happening. But because for me, I come from global community, we started seeing this interesting unpleasant dynamic happening with the with the virus, and we started seeing companies basically hold fundraising, right? And VCs, by the time March came in, everything froze. Basically everything froze. So a lot of companies that usually would be just beginning to go into that spring push to fundraise, and the VCs that would go into that spring to deploy halted, and everything stopped. Everything stopped completely. Now we were seeing, about March, April, May, we were seeing a big movement in venture capitalists, in VCs, supporting portfolio companies. And so those companies that participated in VC structure, and they were lucky enough to participate, to take on investments from those who do support, right, and who provide underlying infrastructure and underlying support. So they were able to kind of sustain their employees and continue their work. And so almost all VCs pivoted during spring to portfolio companies only, right? So full support of portfolio company. I have not seen any deployment during those times. That was really kind of what needed to happen. And now a lot of private equity companies private equity companies that wanted to shift into a venture capitalism just stopped, right? So there's now a big gap. However, June, July, August, things just started speeding up faster and faster and faster. And while we were seeing entrepreneurs popping away, right? So yet another company went out of business, yet another company went out of business. What we started seeing is this huge core of strong entrepreneurs staying and adopting. So a lot of space industry, for example, adopted very well, because while their business models were B2B, they actually realized, oh, I actually can provide solutions here on Earth. And so they became B2C. And so there's a lot of shift happening. And now VCs started getting pressure from their LPs. And they, if you're a venture capitalist, you must deploy the funds, right? Like your job is to deploy the funds. So we started seeing a little bit of a deployment in June, a little bit more in July. In August, things started getting very fast, and right now is the prime season. It's the prime season for fundraising, and it's prime season globally to fundraising, especially for financial technology, because obviously blockchain and AI is taking a big growth. And especially in US, we're seeing there's huge news every day. Yesterday, we saw an announcement that Kraken, one of the oldest exchanges, they got a banking license in Wyoming. And banking license is banking is one of the biggest problems in blockchain industry, and it has been. And being able to see them get that is just such an amazing blessing for all of us.
Yeah. Even I saw this news this morning, that I was like, wow, this is getting mainstream now, Arina, first of all, I would like to thank you for joining us at 7 a.m. And I can see a lot of positivity, energy in you, which made me, even more energetic. I really like your background. Is that an astronaut by any chance, that a little one?
Yeah. Yes, so this is Barbie. She's a Barbie astronaut. My world is involved in several verticals, and so this is a Barbie astronaut, and she's holding Bitcoin.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
This is Apollo 11. This is
Wow.
Apollo 11 model from Legos. I love Legos. I assemble Legos all the time. It's my fun. I get presents in Lego sets and I assemble them.
Wow.
Fantastic.
I really want to meet you in person once this lockdown gets over, because I also love, I can relate, I think, things with you. I wish I had a Barbie. I don't have a Barbie, unfortunately. Sorry, Bosky, do you wanted to say something?
Yeah, I think what she says resonates quite well with me as well. There is some rebound now, especially after Q2, more on the deal side. So there's been more deal, and this year we have seen fintech mega rounds, 100+ million, was quite high, as well as the unicorns have been very less. I think probably only one in this year. So that is quite understandable because of the COVID. And Asia-wide, there has been not much development, but there has been quite a bit of activity in Singapore. And Singapore has had almost 462 million equity funding in 2020, which was quite surprising. But it was not at the early startups, Series A or thing. It was much more on the deal side. There's a lot of M&A activity. You know that Grab acquired Bento, B2B robo advisory. GoBear acquired Asia Credit. So there's been quite an activity on the M&A side, and also equity raising at the Series C, Series B kind of area. And notably, so there is good traction in the SME space. I think we can talk much more detail on that, and the blockchain thing comes as well. So I see some positivity in Singapore, especially the activity has been good. Asia has been dull. Startups with new ideas, seed funding, Series A, I don't think this would be a great year for them. But the rest of the next 2 quarters, like she said, VCs have a mandate to deploy funds. That could change. And last month, I saw a lot of Chinese VC firms holding few accelerators, trying to have investment drives, etc. So I think China is getting organized in terms of getting to invest across Asia. And we know they are quite an aggressive investors as well. So that's again a good sign the Chinese economy is recovering faster than the others. So that's my initial observation on this.
Yeah. So I think you rightly mentioned about Singapore, like a lot of actions happening in Singapore. I think because I live here and also I follow social media. So part of it, I've just realized that nothing stops. Singapore never stops. Like, they're doing something or the other all the time. And that sort of really amazes me the way they do it. But that's a good thing for the startup community in Singapore as well, which is like, there's a lot of support from government, a lot of support from investors. And yeah, I think as Arina mentioned, this is the right time to reach out to investors if you're looking for further investments. So Bosky, I would come to you because you cover quite a diversified regions. I just want to ask Arina, so Arina, what stage of investments do you do in startups? What regions do you cover? And so what's the future lies in terms of investments? Because we are living in a new normal. I mean, obviously we are going to be living in this new normal for a while. We don't know till when. So how is the investment industry, like the investment itself, shaping up to be before pre-COVID, days, and now and post-COVID, maybe whenever it happens?
Yeah, absolutely. It's such a great question. We live in a new reality, and as you said, and the new reality is such that we're not returning to what we used to, and a lot of things that were broken, that we knew hypothetically were broken, now obviously are demonstrated to us that are broken. And it's happening across all the borders, especially around capital markets, especially around fundraising, right? So our outdated systems are kind of not serving us anymore because as we're looking and analyzing the cycle of innovation, it's expediting. And it's not that we're just living through one cycle of innovation, as we, let's say, we invented a wheel and we were like, okay, we're good for a while, right? That's all. Now we have all these innovations adopting and growing around us everywhere. I mean, we just look around and it's all happening very fast. And what they're doing, it's exposing the vulnerabilities in the outdated systems, right? And that's beautiful because it allows us to be able to come in and use this innovation to solve the problems. And so in financial world, that is very obvious. Capital markets move very slow. Global capital markets literally almost non-existent, and they only available to only privileged. And so what I am seeing is really application finally and adoption of these innovations in order to expedite and streamline our capital markets. So that is a big shift and a change that's happening in the world. And post our current reality into the new reality, I believe that we will live in a more globally connected world. And one of the things that really inspires me to do what I do is the thought that those that trade with each other do not fight. They do not go to war with each other. And it is something that it really empowers me moving forward into the future, because I believe that if we can build truly globally connected markets that are liquid, where we democratize investment opportunities, where we democratize investments, right? And where we allow liquidity as well, because venture capitalism is extremely long journey. If you are an early stage investor, you basically need to either, you'll get liquidity either through M&A, which by the way, if it's an innovation company goes through M&A, innovation dies, right? A big company comes in, they observe, and usually they dissolve. And if they implement, it's a very slow journey. If it's a competitive advantage, it's a very, very slow journey. Startups move fast. They break things, they fix things, they move fast. And so, or of course you go IPO, which is extremely expensive. So personally, as an accredited investor, I look across all the borders. I love space industry, I love quantum, I love farming. I mean, of course, crypto is, something. So I am all over the place because it's just kind of because opportunities are all around. However, my company Lumeria primarily concentrates on scaling plus companies. So Lumeria is where capital meets innovation. And what we're doing, we're changing the way we look at fundraising, but doing it within a traditional regulatory infrastructure, right? Because there's a big problem in crypto space. And I'm calling it crypto space because it kind of is the crypto space. There's this, we have sushi and kimchi, right? And that's great. You're right, subatomic swaps it is so beautiful to watch it because again, they go in and they break things. And it happens, it just happens, and we observe this. But however, it is something as a model, right? And a lot of movement in crypto space happens outside of regulations, right?
Yeah.
Therefore, there are fraud, there are other associated problems. You see, I don't look at it. I look at crypto space pushing forward the innovation. So we in a traditional capital markets. And by the way, I come from crypto space. I co-founded a US-based exchange in 2013 before people even, nobody, people didn't know what Bitcoin is. It was, the biggest question was, is this going to be illegal? It was still a question on many of our minds, right? And so I was driven to build infrastructure. I thought, the dream of what we are doing with the cryptography and how we are seeing this cryptocurrency take the traction is only possible if we have the underlying infrastructure. That means the exchanges, it means brokers, it means, banks, everything. And so I was dreaming to build that. And of course, regulations. So now regulations now are sexy, if you would. When I talked about regulations in the beginning, 2017, people were booing at me on the stage, and in the private gatherings, they would say like, "How dare you?" No, it's not the space. And so that's what I'm seeing. I'm seeing a true adoption of this technology, especially blockchain, for capital markets and finance, right? Banking unbanked is such a huge opportunity. And it's not just opportunity for the companies that are providing the service, but also for people that have ability to start banking. And it's all because of single source of truth, right? So blockchain allows us to have a single source of truth. And that's kind of the underlying future that I think we're going to be at, to where we can now start doing business without having to, excuse my language, but trying to figure out, am I gonna get screwed, right? Is somebody gonna try to fraud me and steal from me? Because with single source of truth, with a smart contract, we can really create a baseline trust and understanding and move forward in evolution.
Yeah, Arina, I really like what I hear from you, because you said that you founded a exchange, a crypto exchange back in 2013. That's unbelievable. The reason I say that, because now in 2020, even it takes me a lot of enormous amount of energy to make people understand the benefits of blockchain, benefits of crypto, difference between crypto and blockchain. People are like, oh, is it illegal? is it like a money for money launderers or something? So how on earth could you think of having an exchange in 2013, like a crypto exchange? Where did you get the idea, and how did you find out about having an exchange? Can you just tell me quickly?
Yeah. Thank you for asking me this. I haven't been asked this, I think maybe one time. It's just kind of a statement. Yeah, so we've been looking at Bitcoin for a while and watching it and everything. And basically, we had a death in the family. I'm from Russia. I live in America, and my aunt died. And so naturally, I wanted to send money to help them with the expenses and support them. And we were looking to send them $500, which, by the way, in Russia was like a month worth of salary, like a really good salary, right? And the options we had was Western Union and whatever that other thing that they had. I don't even remember what it was. And it was going to cost us $120 to send $500. And, and it just really sunk into me, okay? Because in America, we live privileged lives, okay? Right. Like, yeah, fine, whatever, but nobody's gonna steal it. It's solid, right? We paid those fees because we knew that some stranger is not going to say, yeah, I'll take your $500 and I'll give it to them, right? Or sending bank wires again harder and longer, and international you can imagine, 7 years ago was longer. And so that's when it dawned to me. That's when I realized that it is so important. And then, so basically what I told my husband, I said, let's send Bitcoin. And he said, we can't. We just can't. And the reason is because I was born in Caucasus. It's a state in Stavropol state in Russia. And so nobody, there's just no way. Now in Asia, you guys already had internal infrastructure going on, and you could kind of trade, and people, a lot of activity. The life of Bitcoin came from Asia. It's undeniable.
Yeah.
So you guys are the ones that made sure to establish and push that forward, right? In US, it was a nothing burger, and I'm calling it a nothing burger because it was a nothing burger. You know, and that's when I realized, oh my goodness, if we this is unacceptable, because this $120 is going to make such a huge difference for them. And I'm just going to send it to the centralized structure. And it didn't feel like it was a fair price to pay, because it just felt wrong. And so that's what inspired me. I thought, okay, you know what? We all talk about this future. We all talk about this promise. We all want a bright future, but we need to roll up our sleeves and go do that thing, which is work. We need to build the infrastructure. So instead of buying Bitcoin and investing in it, we were spending our money and building the infrastructure. And I mean, you know, to this day, I don't know what is more beneficial. I do believe that that was the right thing to do, because my experience is so vast, right? Dealing with Bitcoin exchange in America in 2013 was definitely challenging, and we hit every single resistance and stuff that there was, which allowed us to learn. And you know, and that's what I love about VCs, and that's what I love about entrepreneurs, is that they have these goals, they have this beautiful drive to go and build something, and they will just break through the walls and the boundaries, and then they'll get there. And then when people look at it, they're like, oh, well, that must have been easy, you know. And so thank you for asking that. I really appreciate that.
Thank you for sharing that little story of yours, because you were an entrepreneur. You built a platform where you didn't want to obviously give away that because the way you said it, like obviously in Russia, the monthly salary of $500 from a monthly salary obviously is a huge amount of money back in those days. And you obviously didn't want to give away that $120 to a middle person just for digitally transforming that money from US to Russia. And it does make sense. Smart entrepreneurs like yourself obviously understand that, the pain points, and that's how you find, that's how you build systems. And I really like that little story. I think this is something that other entrepreneurs who are trying to build and fix problems should take an example and build systems that can solve a problem. Today I was talking to somebody. He's building a DeFi-based blockchain platform where you can monetize the internet usage. Obviously, we are all paying money to our ISPs, the internet service providers, but do we get benefited by paying that money? Can we monetize on that? I haven't come across such a case study, but this entrepreneur is building something on those lines. So good to know all these stories, Arina. I'll come back to you with more crypto questions because I really love hearing, because I'm excited. I represent crypto exchange. I work with blockchain startups all the time. So, we share the same wavelength. So thank you so much. Sorry, Bosky, I hope I haven't bored you. Please take this time to speak about your portfolios, your investments, the struggles that startups face, and what's your advice and the best practices that you advise them.
Sure.
Please,
I think it requires a little bit of perspectives on the investment trends now. So like she said, the investments obviously are in downturn, and it is quite predictable that there has been less momentum in the investment pool. And what is going to happen because of that? One is they'll become very cautious. So hence, if they become cautious, there's going to be an increased monitoring and portfolio reevaluation, because a lot of sector gets affected, and there's going to be a lot of sector which will have cyclical effect on the basis. On the other hand, because of this, there could be a downward valuation. I've seen a lot of companies taking a downward hit on their valuation, and a lot of investors have lost. So like she said, the LCs may be quite upset about the VCs downgrading it, but it's about time. So the question around valuation is also being asked. For example, a lot of unicorn comes. Is it the unicorn because of the basis of funding, your last Series C round, or is it a unicorn that's the value that the market is ready to offer on the basis of IPO? And again, another kind of an impact that it will have is the IPOs could go on delayed. People are not able to see the startups and get invest, so there's going to be delay. All these are going to have all these factors will add up to a kind of a downtrend in the whole industry. That is quite evident, is what we are seeing now. So from a startup's perspective, it's going to be quite difficult in terms of how they work, how they have to look into remodeling their portfolios in terms of their business model, how they are going to take advantage of new working environment to create different revenue streams. There could be more equity, less salary elements. These are all the changes that are expected. One more pet theory I have in terms of this whole investment framework is, while we are talking about investment from VC and startup Series A seed funding, trying to focus on VCP, etc. There is a big segment of corporates, and this is quite an interesting segment. If you look at worldwide tech investment is about 60 plus billion, but if you look at 2019, look at pre-COVID numbers, the amount of money that Fortune 500 companies returns to its investor in the form of a dividend is close to $1 trillion. And if you look at the past 5 to 6 years, the amount that has gone into bond market is about another 5 trillion to 5 to 6 trillion dollars that is actually yielding negative returns. So there is a sense of deployment of funds into startup which can yield a much better growth. There is innovation in new markets, and there could be some cutting edge which could also become potentially a unicorn. So there is that scope of the question is not how startups are getting to star now and the change now, etc. The question is more around, can there be a redeployment of these funds which are going elsewhere through the corporate frame? And I feel it is possible. If you look at 10 years back, if you look at the top 10 financial institutions, since we are talking about fintech, you would have seen ICBC, China Construction Bank, HSBC, etc. as the top three. And when you look at 2020, it's Visa, JP Morgan, and MasterCard. And if you look at their investment, they have fair amount of equity investment in the startup ecosystem, including even Citi is making quite significant investment in the startups and new technology and innovation. So this change is quite evident. It's just a question of even corporates will be quite cautious about having a very risky investment, trying to preserve more cash reserves to deploy in their business versus that. So this is going to have a really ripple cyclical effect, not encouraging at the moment, but I think what will change is how these new business models adapt. And she mentioned about blockchain. I think that I see a good change in there, especially when you have businesses which has been running through documentation and physical movements on logistics, shipping, even in banking and LCLG, companies like DLT, Ledger, they are very well poised because the use case that they were trying to solve can be magnified now at a different scale. Now the question is, will these companies get those Series B round to scale up? And that is where the cyclical effect or impact should have. That is hence I feel that rationalization of investment of where funds are is a much more interesting question, rather than trying to put more pressure on why where VC's trend and private equity's trend is rising, because they already are a risky business. They are not like now a risk averse player in the whole funding market. So I feel I have this different take. And from a startup's perspective, so this is around the investment philosophy perspective. From a startup's perspective, because of this challenging thing, they need to tweak the business model. So when you tweak the business model, for example, if you're in the SME space, you can't really do face-to-face business. So naturally, your revenues are going to get affected. But is there a digital way of solution? Yes. So some of this are, you could move some of your traditional marketing and sales into account-based marketing through digital. Can they make the shift? Can they allocate some funds from that? Can the promoters take a hit a bit on the salary and allocate funds on marketing and developing it? Second, the questions around Series A, between Series A and seed funding, I see a lot of startups need debt funding. This is a good segment if some startup can play here. There are funding lending platforms, but they are again becoming like banks in terms of requirements. While the process of onboarding is easy, the compliance from a startup perspective is still difficult, because if I had the cash flow or the inventory or the contract of 6 months, bank would anyway give me. So can someone, basis on my reputation and my ability to drive this business in this COVID period, can anyone do that? I think the only one organization is doing, which is government. So I think we need to include that, because now it appears the kind of emoluments that governments are giving. India government I have announced, Indonesia I've seen, Vietnam government, Singapore, needless to say, they have provided quite a bit of relief on the travel to tourism sector people. These are also a public participation into the funding that can actually keep alive the startups in the survival mode, because that is very critical. It's very nice to talk about nice thing. It also has to have a very nice realistic picture of how the startups are having real difficult problems that are not solvable by normal financial system. Hence there needs to be an intermediary system that can lend startups in a very easy way. And I'm sure there is quite a good reward, because if some of these startups go, it can be debt to equity. So they tend to gain both on valuation and in terms of cash flow. So I see new ideas can develop given these challenges.
So I think, Bosky, you brought up a very good sort of topic, debt financing. I mean, can you, because obviously we talk about VC funds, private investments on our panels, but we haven't spoken much about debt financing. Can you just probably flesh it up a little bit about like what's debt financing and how does it help startups or challenges?
Correct. See, one of the interesting segments within the fintech startup itself is a lot of startups are lending startups. If you look at, if you were to put a pie chart on the investments that has gone on startups, it will be payments first, second will be lending. If you look at lending, there is either B2C lending or SMB lending. So that shows that startups really wanted to solve an ever existing problem for SMEs, which was funding. So if you ask an SME what you want, they will say, I want business, which means sales, marketing. They can't scale up very fast. So they really want the marketing power. And you ask other two things, they will say funding, and they'll say funding. So funding, what they meant is essentially cash line or a credit line. So in the top three things, two priorities is only credit. So while we have fintechs solving the credit problem, the fintechs that are solving the credit problem itself is into the credit problem, because the biggest problem for a startup now is the cash flow. And that is due to two reasons. One is growth has stopped. Some startups, it has completely stopped, especially during February to March, May, up till April, May. And some people are having receivables problem, because if you are in some markets like Dubai and things like that, there is an inherent problem there. Second, there is an inherent culture also to delay in terms of payments. So in this time, what is the mechanism for financing? So you go to a bank, you will not get finance. So that is why there is, these people try and go to a pre-seed round. They go on a bit lower valuation, and these are typically individual investors. So already these fintechs who bridge this investors and lenders in the form of lending instruments can play a pivotal role in increasing that kind of a volume to startups. But what is required is, again, bringing in them into a network. Maybe LATOKEN can do that. If you can have a mechanism where you can have startups like us, and if you say, hey, I know Bosky is a good guy and I give him 4-star and people trust on LATOKEN star, I get a much better funding at a lower cost. So I think there is a dire need. If someone gets into the space, if I were to have a little bit more cash, I would actually be lending to some of the promising startups, purely based on the promoter and their track record so far and their ambitions, this would actually be a good mechanism to do that. But you can't do it in the traditional way, relying on payments, relying on the number of contracts won or the potential that you will achieve. You will never get finance.
Yeah, I think, Bosky, I totally agree with you. The pain points that you've highlighted as a startup founder, these are some of the challenges. And obviously at LATOKEN, we connect investors with startups, and all ideas are welcome. Now you're part of the VCTV family, but you're part of LATOKEN family as well. We would like to have you on our panels more to discuss this and how can we help together startups get funded during these difficult times. So sharing those, thanks for sharing those insights with us. And I just want to ask one question to Irina. I'm just conscious of the time. We are running short of time. But Irina, talking about the Kraken Digital Asset Exchange, which won the America's first crypto banking license, what does that tell us? Is it because of COVID-19, because we are all locked down and it's all like virtual and people don't have access to cash, and obviously US dollars dipping down? Is it because of the situation that this happened? And if that happened because of the situation, how is it going to, does that mean that obviously crypto is going mainstream, access to capital markets? So what are your thoughts?
Yeah, absolutely. Such a great question. So I think that one of the biggest barriers that we have had, as you said that earlier, misunderstanding about what blockchain technology is, and misunderstanding from regulators. Just like you said, what is this? This is and it goes down to Bitcoin because they all associate blockchain with Bitcoin. And by the way, Bitcoin is built on blockchain, so it is a blockchain, but blockchain not always is a cryptocurrency, right? Yeah. So there is this mergence, and basically what I believe that happened is that regulators finally had to open up their eyes to alternatives. They had to really look at what would work better, right? And by the way, a fool would be money laundering a Bitcoin because they're gonna get caught, okay? It's still the best way to launder money, not advocating to anybody, just to full disclaimer, but it's still cash, okay? It's just still good old traditional cash, right? Bitcoin is very, very, very hard because it's all there. And so it's that immutable ledger that regulators like so much. And so I believe what started happening, and that's from my observation, is that they started thinking, okay, we need to distribute money fast, okay? How do we do that? Well, you see, if we had a way to be able to connect government with people and make sure that to maximize avoiding the fraud, right? Because writing checks, not gonna work, right? Social securities, I mean, just assume that your social security, somebody is seeing it. I mean, it's been stolen many, many times, right? The black market is, all your information is just out there, it's all being traded and all that. So I believe that's what really pushed forward all that innovation. As we were ending 2019, the conversations that we were having with the regulators and in implementations of blockchain into capital markets was, yes, I understand it, but things move slow and we need to see more proof of concept. There was not a real need to change. And it was like maybe 5 to 10 years, realistically, right? Now, March come around, there's a deployment for all kinds of testing, right? We just saw an announcement that there are several wallets are being built to test out the distribution of funding for people. And that's here in America, in our country where things move very slow, right? So where it is not something that we thought would be possible. So it is that change, it's that need of something different and realization that what we want to do and how we need to start living our lives no longer fits. Our systems can no longer serve us. And Boski, I would really quickly love to address what you said about kind of a VC structure also being outdated. You're 100% correct about it. And the reason is because there's all this, so there's your angel, your seed, your A, your B, your C, your D, your E, your F, and if you want to go public, I mean, you're being pushed further and further and further into longer stages. As I was mentioning before, so a lot of people are forced into M&A, and a lot of entrepreneurs are just driven by one thing. They want to find solutions and build their company. So that's exactly why at Lumeria, we're changing the way we look at funding, okay? Because this whole intermediate steps where you never get liquidity, ever. Neither founders, no stockholders get any liquidity through all these intermediate steps. And that's broken, right? Because there's no proof of concept. We do not have a pricing mechanisms. You go and raise money, you raise $1 million. Next time you're hoping to raise $5 million, right? And you need to always come from behind. An entrepreneur is never allowed to raise enough money to build their dream. And I think that's why we saw the big scale in ICO. People say that it was a scam. And a lot of things were scam. But what we truly saw, what the example of capital markets was, is that now people are hungrier more than ever for deal flow. And that democratization of investments is the key. That outdated systems to where, the unsophisticated investor no longer true. We have access to the information. I like to say the taxi driver, okay, that read on Reddit, something on Reddit about a space company in Africa, right? She's in Africa, she's a taxi driver, she's an entrepreneur, she's a woman, she's progressive, she's taking care of the world, she's saving her money. She read something about a space company on Reddit that's in Israel. She needs to be able to make decisions about her money, because if she believes that she can make alpha, I am not going to tell her that she's wrong. And who are we to tell her that she is wrong? And so I believe that we are shifting into a new world of funding as well. And I know my company is working with a global securities exchange, and they're doing it from within a regulated, with the traditional regulated pathways. So the change is near, and it's near very, very fast. I mean, we are right now finalizing, launching our first portfolio of 6 companies. And they're all different companies. It's a manufacturing company, it's a space company, it's an AI company, it's a gaming company, and so forth. There's all these innovations and they're moving forward. So the world is changing. The problem with lending is that often they borrow and then they really have a hard time paying back. And so lending is a double-sided stick. And I can tell you that from my own experience, and I can tell you that from the experience of many entrepreneurs that I know, is that we often come from behind, we come short, we agree to terms, and then we just cannot pay it off. And then often it ruins it kind of ruins the companies as well. So lending is not free money. Now it's faster money than traditional venture capital, but no fret, guys, it's changing, and we're approaching the world where we can finally empower entrepreneurs. And the reason it's important is because we can faster push benefits. The reason it's broken is because small market cap is broken. Small market cap is $40 million to $2 billion. It is $40 million to $2 billion is scooped into this one thing where it makes no sense to go public. Now, interesting information and interesting matrix. Most entrepreneurs that start the company and scale it to $100 million do not have the skills, ability, or desire to continue going on. okay? Because a lot of entrepreneurs that are early stage that want to get to that point, they by the time their company gets to $100 million, they already have that other thing that they want to build. So then they don't have the skill set to be able to move to the next stage. And so I believe that what we're going to see is this global move to going public, because that's how we pass forward the opportunities to those drivers in Africa. And to me, to me, it's the most empowering thing to think about.
Yeah, that's financial inclusion, to be honest. I really like the way you started with ICOs, why ICOs were born. I mean, obviously nobody wants to, take away our money, or they just want to have scams or anything. The whole reason ICOs are born, because obviously they couldn't have access to traditional ways of raising funds. That's why ICOs are born, for the good vision in mind, right? That was a good noble cause behind that. But obviously we had a lot of scams in the process, and like everywhere else there are scams. Sorry, I had to say that. But the thing is, the purpose, the vision was not to obviously have scams. And the way you touched upon lending versus VC money, I think Bosky, do you have to add anything there, because Irina has a point?
Yeah, I mean, she has a point. I think ICO is almost near dead, and the VCs are retreating from very exuberant highs. I've seen blockchain, especially on the Bitcoin side, a lot of corporates have reduced their investments. So, and a lot many are early startups and seed and Series A. So it shows the blockchain area, the space is not host for a lot of matured startup yet. So that is something that we can look for in another 2-3 years to see how this is. The space has seen a resurgence, and recently there are companies who have invested in blockchain specifically, may not be a very crypto like Bitcoin speculatively. So at least the firms like JP Morgan, Visa, they have openly said they will not do much on the Bitcoin side. But even Facebook has shown some enthusiasm on this. They invested in Libra.
So JP though, so JP Morgan announced that they said that they're not going to do anything with that, right? And then they announced their token, and then they partnered up with Consensus. So things are not as appear news as they are in reality. And there's a huge move in biggest financial infrastructures in implementation. And I apologize for interrupting, but you see, ICO is not dead. The reason ICO is not dead is because initial coin offering is a function. Now, that function is very important function for ecosystem. Now, it's not going to be the fundraising for securities and calling them tokens function. And I think that's important to be clear. For example, course specific offering of companies, a non-profit organizations actually hugely benefit from creating the same structure as ICO. Maybe the term is tainted, but guys, Bitcoin was a dirty word. Bitcoin used to be the thing that people were scared to talk about. People that were involved in the industry, they would hide it, okay? And now it's a sexy thing, okay? And so let's not just look at the things that the media tells us and say ICO is dead and that's a bad thing. There are good and bad, and the good things will prevail, and they will improve our lives and the lives of businesses. Now, we are not going to use this securities, right? So the problem was that it was obviously security, but a lot of attorneys were convinced that it was utility, not because they lied, because they don't know. What is this thing? It does look like, okay, this makes perfect sense. It's a utility. Is it a commodity? Nobody knows. Nobody knew. Nobody, And of course, some scammers came in and were like, well, we'll take you for a ride. But scams are everywhere. Madoff, okay? Madoff. like biggest scams in the world are like made through like this regulated financial markets, and they cook the books. And now with distributed ledger technology, with a single source of truth, we can avoid that.
Yeah, sorry, Bosky, we're not trying to sort of corner you. The thing is, ICOs are not dead. You just have to understand the fundamental behind the ICOs. It's a way, as Irina said, it's a system to raise funds. The more you actually in the industry, you work in crypto, you work in the blockchain space, as blockchain is single source of truth. I mean, you can't fool the system. You are being traced and tracked everywhere. You can't do anything. It's not like cash. You just, carry cash in a bag and hand it to somebody, and you don't have trace. So I think you have to understand the token aspect behind ICOs and how tokens are used to raise funds, the difference between a utility token and a security token, to be able to call ICOs not a scam. Sorry about that. We are just short of time. I just want to know, both of you are here for the first time. I mean, Irina has been on a VCTV before, but with Kyle, not with me. So I would just like to know your closing remarks, like Bosky, your closing remarks for the evening, and your feedback about VCTV, please. Thank you.
Yes, I think the closing remarks are, I'm optimistic that there's, after any crisis we have seen traditionally over the period of 100 years, the rebound has been great. There has been a new business model. There will be probably new types of Facebook, Stripe, or Lyft or Uber kind of models in different industries. So there is going to be a rebound, and that is optimism from next year onwards. We would see that, and that's the hope. That's how world has always worked, and entrepreneurs have always come back stronger when in crisis. So that is the observation. And from LATOKEN, I think it's a great initiative. There is a huge dearth of putting together VCs, startups, private equity people on a single page. In fact, even in many countries, we don't have just a VC or a PE kind of an association. They all have some kind of a group, small groups, but within that there will be micro groups, etc. I think it's a great initiative where you do in terms of bridging the gaps and bringing in different perspectives. And yes, I think these discussions could not always bring in solutions. I think even asking the right question and searching for some quest in terms of unsolved problems is also quite a good start. And I think the spurt to such creative thoughts would come from these kind of discussion. Really appreciate, and I encourage this to happen more often. And all the best to you.
Thank you for those good words, Bosky. Really appreciate that. Irina, your closing remarks and feedback about VCTV.
Thank you. My closing thoughts are: whether you're entrepreneur or you're funding vehicle, whatever funding vehicle you are, keep up the good work. Right now are important times. It is very, very fast accelerating world we're living in, and democratization of opportunities, democratization of everything is happening, and it is such a big opportunities. This is the time when the new reality is being built. And so in the hard times is when those new realities are built. So stay strong and tune in into VCTV. Okay, if you're an investor, we need to talk. Okay, if you're an entrepreneur, this is a great opportunity for you to pitch. Okay, I mean, I participate now every single day in VCTV, and as I said earlier, it's one of my most favorite kind of ways. That's the continuum. Right? Why? Because we discuss all these different subjects. I mean, yesterday we talked about esports, right? So much is happening in esports and just sports and entertainment. And we talk about biotech, and we talk about farming, and there's all these happening. And what a great opportunity it is to connect with other investors and see that they're doing. And in US, VCTV, one constant is that we hear is Get hold of me, we're deploying. Get hold of me, we're deploying. Get hold of me, we must deploy. And so what that means to me is that entrepreneurs, you need to get on, apply to pitch. Now, this is the key. Pitch, follow up on the advice, and then pitch again. Don't be expecting that right away you're going to show up as a shining star and we'll just all be swooped away by your brightness and write you all these big checks, okay? Most of the times when you're pitching, you need to make sure there are several times that you're going to touch up. So pitch one time, get our feedback, and then pitch again. What it allows you to do is allows you to pitch to several VCs at the same time instead of talking one by one. And so for you guys, I love being part of this conversation, and I really love being here on your channel because Sonny, it's so great to be able to be connected from different parts of the world, and that's what we must do, because I think that's how we empower each other, and that's how we also see when the turbulence is coming, we can actually build the preventative measures. So it's my honor to be here. I'm looking forward to being here more. And I actually was just thinking that I'm going to sign up for other, I only signed up for blockchain for Asia because I was wondering how it's going to work out in my schedule. But what a great way to boost my morning, wake up at 6 a.m. and get dressed, get ready, be ready. And we're going to finish right now, and I'm going to walk my daughter to school. And how beautiful this is. We're already powered up. So thank you. Thank you so much. And Bosky, it's such a pleasure to meet you.
Same here. Same here.
I'm hoping we're going to connect more and connect on TV and post that. And for you, VCTV, for you, Sonny, thank you. Thank you for doing this. We have been pushed to a reality where we must stay in places. And if we're not staying at homes, we're isolated to our bubble, right? And it is thanks to technology and thanks to your efforts that you're bringing us close together. And it is so wonderful to be able to experience it.
Thank you, Arina, for those words. I really agree with your thoughts because I look forward to VCTV every single day. And the thought of missing out on a single day makes me feel sick. So it's that connected I am. It's because of technology, I can reach out to US, I can reach out to Asia, I can reach out to everyone throughout the world. And the VCs who have come here on our session, on our platform, they have told me they were missing out on a community. So the VCs, they are there where they are very much in silos. So they love the community thing that we provide to them. That's what I wanted to add. That's coming from other VCs as well. And as like you, Arina, obviously you start your day 6 a.m. coming on the show. I would love to do that. If I get an opportunity to host a VCTV in Singapore time, like morning, then I'd love to do that. But 8 p.m. is when I am like mentally already in that mode, like, okay, this is my show, this is coming, and I'm going to meet great speakers, share great knowledge, insights, make connections. And yes, the whole purpose of this is to help startups pitch. You are getting a global platform. It's not like a closed door kind of pitching session. It's like an open door, and which is helping you in a way to get out of your comfort zone and be a good public speaker, because all over the world, people are watching you. So that's why I addressed to my startup community that please come and pitch. We have investors like Arina, who is so knowledgeable. You can get a lot of knowledge from her, a lot of insights from her. She's going to be a fantastic mentor. So please come and pitch. www.latoken.com/events/profiles. Please choose your VC and investor as per the profile of your company. And please reach out to me, and I'm very much happy to have you on the platform. Having said that, thank you so much, Bosky. Thank you so much, Arina, for having joining VCTV. And I hope to have you both back on forthcoming sessions. As Arina said, so many topics. Yesterday, I covered AR, VR, and one of the founders showed me the real the technology while we're having this session. I was amazed by it. So, and hence, I would love to have you back again. So good evening, good morning. And yeah, please say hi to your girl. And let's stay connected, and let's speak again. And till then, good night, good day.
Yeah. Thanks a lot, Sunny, and very nice meeting you, Arina. Yeah, all the best.
Thank you. Bye.
Pleasure. Bye.
Bye, Arina.
Bye.